Brother, are you all right?
No, I am not all right. I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar. That rhymes.
You're drunk.
Of course I'm drunk.
Oh, hello everyone. We
fuck's
are
sake.
here. Yeah, well, I told you I was playing everything, Gio.
Yeah, but he was talking, so I thought, yeah, I'm gonna tell you that made-up story that I came up with 5 minutes ago.
Well, it could always start. I mean, this is a show about made-up stuff and things that oddly some of them have become real. But anyways, thank you all for showing up. This is going to be another fascinating one. Rather than sticking just straight through the movies, today, as you can already tell by those who actually read the description and the background that Furball has decided to select for today's episode,
Yep.
we're going to actually delve into continuity done right. Hear that, Discovery? When you put a little effort, you can actually keep up with things. So yes, we are going to do a review of both The Trouble with Tribbles and Trials and Tribulations. That wonderful cross-the-decades link between the two series.
This is one of the greatest jumps. I don't know. I remember when this originally came out, and this was exciting when DS9 did this. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and I remember watching it, and the heightened visuals immediately started stoking that, okay, when are they doing the remaster of the original series? And it wasn't long after that they actually started doing that. Because there was the technology. And another thing, I'm surprised it actually took them as long to do what they did in the DS9 episode, because the technology they used was the same technology that was actually pioneered in Forrest Gump.
Yep.
Which Forrest Gump was... Anyone?
1994, I think.
July 94 is when it was released. So, and this episode aired the first week of November in 96. Which also, in the DS9 episode, there was a wonderful little nugget that they gave during the opening couple scenes as well. Either of you remember which one?
Let me see.
Actually, no, I don't.
I'm surprised you didn't catch this one, keeping the context of the time frame in mind of when it actually aired. As of November 1996, how many versions of the Enterprise were there?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, there was the standard 1701, there was the A, the D, the B, and I think the C?
And the E was released
Yeah, right,
month.
96, it depends, was it before First Contact or afterwards?
The actual premiere of First Contact was the 22nd of November, 96, but promotional material had already been released, so they had already teased the replacement Enterprise, which was, you have to remember, in Generations a couple years before, the D was destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There was actually the model designers who designed the Enterprise D model, the 4-foot model, actually repainted that model to say as NCC 1701E because they thought that the producers might pull another A maneuver, so to say, and just rebadge another Galaxy class ship.
Yeah, but instead we actually got the Nova project, which resulted in the Sovereign design, which I enjoyed. When you look at what was going on with the Federation at the time, the redesign of the Enterprise to go with the new class and the way they did it, good move.
Yeah, it fits much better to the design of, for example, the Intrepid class.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen an Akira class yet, had we? That came with Generations.
Oh, and Furball, something we were talking about just before we went on air. Someone has already asked it in the live stream. 1 minute debunk. Are you also covering more Troubles and more Troubles from the animated series?
Oh God! So I've watched these episodes 3 times over the past week. It'd be one time just to watch, one time for notes, and then one time as I do screenshots so that we can, as we chat through this. And I only watched that one time, and that was painful enough. That is, I'd said to Jared some of the worst acting I've ever heard, and his response was, "You call that acting?" Storyline, okay, weird, acceptable, could be, but I mean, it's almost like they put each of the individual characters into a bubble, never told them what anybody else was saying, and just handed them a sentence. Here, read this. And that's all it was. There was Kirk's his deliveries were so terrible. If we joke about how much he went to this type of acting through the years, the acting on that was disgusting. So no, we're not doing that.
I must admit that I've never actually watched the animated series in English. And Joan, it's just painful enough. But the acting was not as bad, I think. It was acceptable.
You need to watch it in English just once, to recognize. Seriously, it's like Kirk is delivering lines with no connection to the actual episode.
Oh God. I mean, the entire thing was drawn as if basically like still frames. They were all just sitting there all the time. There was no interaction between the characters whatsoever, and no reactions of the character to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely early animation where it was borderline stop animation, but instead of with claymation, you're using actual cellophane. You're using actual drawings. And what's really bad is during that time frame, when you look at what other animated sources were doing, is like, there's no reason for it to be that choppy. Did they really just go down to the lowest bidder? Did they pull a military move?
It wasn't that big of a series yet.
True.
I mean, so it's not like they had much of a budget. The reason the Klingons look like they do in the original series is specifically because they didn't have the budget to do anything else.
True. They really hampered in on the operating budget, and especially later seasons as the budget for just the cast increased, it really hampered what they could do on the rest of the production. And actually,
but they pulled those moves multiple times, not only during the original series. For example, the reason why the Betazoids look the way they do with only those black eyes is because of budgets.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to have any face mask or anything for a reoccurring character in TNG apart from Worf.
Well, yeah, because they saw how much it was taking just to get Worf ready to go on screen. Imagine if you had to do that with even just 2 other characters.
Well, they did have Data.
Yeah, but Data wasn't so much prosthetic except for select scenes. His was a wig and body paint and contacts.
Yeah, basically golden spray paint. Recipe Trump, I guess.
When this originally aired, the first 2 seasons you didn't even see any Klingon ships because they didn't have the budget to design an actual ship. And then they designed a Klingon ship and a Romulan ship. And shortly thereafter, the Romulan warbird, the model, was actually lost. Like, the physical version of it was lost. That's why the second time you see Romulans in season 3,
it's the D7.
They're flying a bird of prey. Or no, it wasn't a bird. Yeah, the D7. With some excuse of they're working with the Klingons now because they lost the fucking model.
And we have a super chat from 1 Minute Debunk. 2 pounds. I regret jokingly mentioning the animated series. Please no. Oh no, we will find a time after relocation of certain cast members, to have you on as a guest. And guess what we're doing there, Debunk? We're going to cover something from the animated series. You brought it on yourself.
I already know a nice topic from the animated series. Whatever happened to Giant Spock? Do you remember that one?
That would be a good one to delve into.
I mean, is there still a giant version of Spock roaming around there somewhere in the galaxy? And what is he doing?
All right,
that would be a good question. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get into this. Now, all right, here's the question for the two of you. Do we want to go through the review of just the first episode and then filter in DS9 after, or do we want to kind of talk about the overlap of both of them? Because I was wondering about the lineup of certain scenes, and on the last watch through that I did just earlier today, they, again, Discovery, this is how you maintain continuity. The scenes that overlap between the two episodes happen in the proper order.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to dip out for just a second and restart my Firefox before I can screen share.
Use Chrome.
Get rid of the Mac. That was another thing too. Oh, actually, something we could talk about before that actually does come up in the DS9 episode is the division colors. And I remember as I was watching this one, a couple nuances with the actual original series costume department came to mind as we were watching it. Well, as I was watching it. And notice how over time the tunic, the outer shirt, kept shrinking on everyone.
I actually did not notice that.
Yeah, it was part of the reason why they actually had the black undershirt with the colored over top.
Oh, wait a second. You're talking about the original series or
the
just
original
that episode?
Series.
Yeah, they were quite loose in the beginning.
Yeah, and the reason why
That's what she said.
the reason why they shrunk in ended up getting shorter and a tighter fit over time was because it was in the contract that after every production week, all of the costumes had to be dry cleaned. And that repeated maintenance of the uniform items shrunk everything. And it actually drove to why Kirk ends up in this episode in an entirely different uniform top.
Maybe that's also why Shatner seems to be getting fatter over time.
Later in this season and in season 3, his weight was part of the issue. But prior to this, if you actually look in this one, it doesn't appear that is going on, but it was actually noted that, yeah, with the repetitiveness of that wash cycle, even though it was supposed to be dry cleaning, it wreaked havoc on the costumes. And actually, here's another question. What color was the original command level supposed to be?
Gold.
No. It ended up looking gold. It ended up looking like a mustard yellow, but it was actually intended to be a green.
What?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Because what television manufacturer was a major funding element for both CBS and specifically this TV series?
I don't know.
RCA. And RCA was one of the first production color TV sets that were released in the mid-60s. So what better than have a show with its costume department and its scenery set to really capitalize on the technology of one of its financial backers.
Yeah.
Which is why it was intended to be red, blue, and a shade of green. But because not as many people bought the RCA units, it ended up looking more gold, more yellow. So in later iterations, like when the actual products were released to the fandom years later, and also in the animated series and DS9 and other series where they look back on that time period, the command color ends up being the gold. And it was because of that error between the filming, the expectation, and the actual delivery. And that's where, if you look at the tunic that Kirk wears in this episode, what is it? It's a wonderful shade of green.
Yeah.
Gotta love the nuance in the history. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's green. Are you wait, no, let me make sure.
It's definitely more green than the other one that Chekhov is wearing.
All right, so let's begin. So we start off with our cast and crew in the briefing room with lovely Chekhov, and something that Jared had pointed out earlier while we were discussing that I don't know if this is the first episode, and I'd like to actually do a little research into that and find out if this is where Chekhov began claiming Russian rights on every cool thing from history, or if it had already been established. But basically everything in history that was ever cool, the Russians did it, kind of like the Simpsons did it. They are on, and you guys, if you guys want to take over this, just let me know. I'll just kind of click on through.
Well, and another thing that harkens back to a topic we've had before, notice the reference to specifically the solar year increment that Spock gave. So remember when we were talking about time and how is it kept across the Federation? Mm-hmm. Again, that specific denotion of a solar year, denoting the Earth frame of reference for time.
Where was that? What was the discussion? So they're
right
talking about
there at the beginning. Yeah. You said you had the script right there.
Yeah, I'm looking through it right now. So it's they're approaching K7. Kirk asks how close they're going to get to the Klingon outpost. Chekhov's response is 1 parsec, sir. Close enough to smell them. And then this one had so many quips in it that I love, and I've got a couple of them cited here as we go through. And Spock's response was, "That is illogical, Ensign. Odors cannot travel through the vacuum of space. I was making a little joke, sir." And Spock's, "Extremely little, Ensign."
Little joke for a little man.
Yeah. So talk about the history of the two areas. The Battle of Dantu 5 was fought there. Oh yeah, okay, 23 solar years ago. They are heading to Sherman's planet, which has the Klingon Empire and the Federation both have claims on, but according to the Organian Peace Treaty, whoever can develop it better has rights to the planet. And unfortunately, the Klingons are brutal and aggressive, and they are most efficient. I remember once Peter the Great had the problem like that.
Okay, so apparently in episode 203, Chekhov already did something similar.
Doesn't surprise me at this point. It was just what struck me with it was how often he did it in this episode.
Yeah. So then they get a priority stress code 1 emergency disaster call coming from station D7, and they head off to the space station.
Oh, do you notice something about the Enterprise model there?
What's that?
It's crooked.
The camera angle is off center, yeah.
No, but no. Forget about the camera angle.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, there's something weird about the end side of the saucer section. This longitudinally placed tube thingy ahead of the impulse exhaust seems to be angled in regards to the main axis of the craft.
That could just be perspective.
Well, it could be that, but also what actually drew my attention first when you look at it is because of the orientation of the camera as the ship is traveling in this frame. Look at the inner edge of the nacelles.
It looks like it has a handle.
Well, it does on both of them, but look at how far down the nacelles it looks like we're going. It just, the proportions of how that camera angle is actually set up is odd.
Yeah, there's something weird about it.
And this is the new remastered version of this, so all of the graphic effects are modern 2000s.
Is it also possible that the nacelles aren't completely parallel?
That's what it's looking like.
Yeah.
At least from this angle, but yeah, I gotta love the attempt to clean up 60s tech.
So then we get to the D7 outpost, which is in orbit
K7.
of... Is it,
K7.
Or K7, that is in orbit of Sherman's planet, correct?
No, it is the main trading outpost in the same sector. That's the thing.
Okay.
They don't say exactly how far away Sherman's planet is, but in most of your map references, K7 is not in a single star system. It's essentially a random point across trade routes. Yeah.
Okay.
Almost like what Deep Space Nine ended up becoming.
Yeah. Okay. Then as they approach...
Deep Space Nine was at least orbiting a star, wasn't it?
No.
Well, no.
Deep Space Nine was above Cardassia. Or no, above, was it Cardassia or Bajor?
No. Originally, it was an orbit of Bajor, and then it was basically towed outwards into near an asteroid belt where they found the wormhole.
Yeah, so it's not around. Well, is it in orbit of a star, or is it far enough out that it's past the sphere of influence?
They haven't been exactly clear about that, but it is definitely out away from Bajor towards the Denorius belt, which is where they ended up finding the opening for the wormhole.
Okay. Where are we at? Need to find my Word document because I've got it.
Also, we need to be clear here. When we're talking about Bajor, we're talking about the planet Bajor, whose official name I think is Bajor 10.
Which would have it towards the outer reaches of that stellar system.
No, that's not true. The Bajor system is actually gargantuan. Give me a second.
So
It has like 17 planets or something.
I don't know how big the system is.
Bajoran system. Let's see. Yep, there's 14 planets.
Yeah,
and
so
the inhabited one is Bajor 10.
Yeah, it's in the outer third.
Yeah, but it's still in the habitable zone. I guess the other ones are much further outside. Yep, Jared, let me show you something. I'll send it to you via Discord.
So we are, as they approach K7, everyone's kind of taken aback by the fact that nothing's wrong there. And they make contact with Mr. Lurie, who is the administrator of K7, and tells them that they apologizes for the emergency, but he needs their help, and we need to beam down to discuss the emergency call.
Okay, Jared, do I see this correctly that Bajor 10 is actually outside the Denorius belt? If you count through them? There's 9 planets inside it and 5 outside. So Bajor 10, the inhabited one, is the first outside the belt.
That?
And Brainery says multiple M-class moons as well.
Yeah, honestly, that display is really a tough read, Now, is that the Denorius belt itself, or is it just an asteroid belt within the system? Because I've seen the Denor in other maps, like actually what they utilized in Star Trek Online, where the Denorius belt is a region of space outside, but in the region of Bajor, the Bajoran system.
According to Memory Alpha, it's indeed located between Bajor 9 and Bajor 10. As seen in the DS9 episodes, A Mystery, Past Prologue, and If Wishes Were Horses.
It's weird that a belt like that would actually be listed in the system, but a lot of the references they make to it and travel bits actually make it as it seems outside, because, well, again, can go down a rabbit hole with that.
There's definitely an inconsistency here.
Yeah.
There's definitely some fuck up.
That is blatantly apparent at this point. All right, so safe to say, Kirk was not happy about the situation he found when he got to K7 after receiving a priority A1 alert.
Yeah, this is kind of the beginning of Kirk just being consistently pissed. Rightfully so. And having like an underlying fuck you all for wasting my time. So I'm just going to do what I can to waste yours.
Yep. So through that, they actually get to there where they actually, before even writing down his name, what I wrote was, Dick Administrator underestimates the nerd power that is a Vulcan. Because he definitely had that cocky attitude of, oh, no one knows what this grain is, and Spock cuts him off and finishes the entire explanation from a 5,000-foot point of view.
But now that's not the administrator, because
yeah,
the administrator is the guy in orange. That's Mr. Lurie. No. Was it him that was explaining it, or
both.
Was it?
So you have the the undersecretary is an administrator from the United Federation of Planets. You have the administrator of the station as well. So you have the actual title administrator, and you have a dick bureaucrat.
Yeah, so here, and now, Captain, I want all security available. I want them posted around the storage compartments. Storage compartments? Storage compartments? The storage compartments containing the quadrotriticale. What? What's quadrotriticale? And then he hands him the little thingy out of his pocket. Pouch. Wheat? So what? And that's what it starts. Quadrotriticale is not wheat, Captain. Of course, I wouldn't expect. This is Mr. Burris. I wouldn't expect you or Mr. Spock to know Burris about such things, but quadrotriticale is a high-yield grain, a four-lobed wheat variety. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So it was the beginning of the smackdown for all of the nonsense that's going on this station.
Well, nonsense is relative. Obviously, we can agree that a good quality of your wheat is very important for things.
True, but at the same time, do you really have to be such an asshole about it, thinking, oh, no one in this room knows what it is other than me, when in actuality, everyone in the room knew what it was, except for
Kirk. Than Kirk.
Well, I think you just didn't hear my joke. I just opened a wheat beer bottle.
Well, I couldn't tell what it was, but yes, quality of grain is good for many purposes, but to say there were issues with this grain would be an understatement.
Yeah. So, let me see. Get back to clicking on the right thing. Talks about how important it is, and then Mr. Lurie demands that they have security down. So Kirk says to provide 2 security guards and then provide shore leave for everybody else on the ship. And this is one of the beginning of all the snark, and I absolutely love this. Captain Kirk, how dare you authorize a mere 2 men for a project of this importance? Starfleet Command, and then Kirk cuts him off. I have never questioned the orders or intelligence of a representative of the Federation.
Until now.
And then he storms out. Then they go to the bar. The shore leave begins, and you gotta love the skirts. And that will continue into Deep Space Nine.
Ah, yes, one of the best quotes from that episode. And again, you have Chekhov claiming Russian responsibility for the hybrid, despite, wait a minute, what nation did Spock actually attribute as being a factor in it?
Originally from Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chekhov immediately knows what it is. Let me see if I can find the line. Oh, Quadro Triticale. I've read about this, but I've never seen any before. It's a Russian invention.
Just like everything else.
Everything else.
Apart from nuclear vessels.
Vessels. The nuclear vessels. Vessels. And Kirk is astounded that, again, he's the only one who doesn't know. Oh, yeah, and there's that beautiful V-neck.
The deep V-neck.
Deep. You can almost see some shat cleavage.
All right. And then you have the bartering after the appearance of good old Cyrano Jones.
So Cyrano Jones, a international traveler. So, whoa, what the hell just happened?
Did you break it again?
I did. Cyrano Jones, who sells and barters, and this is where we are introduced to the Tribble, which is an adorable little thing. And I used to have a Tribble. I might still have one somewhere in my house. Now I kind of want to get like 50 of them.
According to their properties, you already probably have 40 of them in your house.
It all depends on how much they've been eating and how long they've been there.
All I gotta do is stop feeding him, but we'll get there. Uhura immediately falls in love with the Tribble. And what I didn't get a screen cap here is the bartering back and forth of once Uhura falls in love with it, the bartender realizes that this is a profitable venture and he wants to buy one. And then to piss off the bartender, Cyrano Jones gives this one to the pretty little lady. Kirk and Spock go back to the ship. Kirk gets a phone call from Admiral What's-His-Nuts. Let me see. Admiral Fitzpatrick. And Admiral Fitzpatrick informs him that, yes, the Quadro Triticale is of vital importance and needs to be protected.
Is that because they don't have any potatoes anymore?
This is the replace. Well, no. So I think they've already mentioned it at that point. The determination was that the Quadrotriticale was the only Earth-based plant that would actually take root and thrive on Sherman's planet.
God damn it, Jared! You just didn't get my very cheap Irish and potato joke. I mean, the guy's called Fitzpatrick.
Oh, yeah. He's lived through the famine.
Yeah, but, well, and then again, a bit of that sort of racial generalization wasn't as apparent in this season as it was during seasons 1 and 2 of The Next Generation.
Example?
The relocated settlement.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And actually, Code of Honor.
Yep. So at least they went in both directions with their stereotyping.
Immediately after that phone call, a red alert is called. And this just blew my mind. So the red alert is because there's a Klingon battlecruiser rapidly closing in on the station. Kirk gets to the bridge. They make a phone call to Mr. Lurie, and apparently the view screen has been programmed for dramatics. Because when they call Mr. Lurie, this is what you see. There's they're telling him there's a Klingon battlecruiser, red alert, there's problems, oh my god, we gotta try and save you. And Mr. Lurie says, no, I don't think there's gonna be any problems because the captain of the Klingon battlecruiser is in my office. Like, who's controlling the pan and scan of that view screen? Why didn't it open it up to show us the damn Klingons?
That they were already there.
Yeah.
And
I just thought that was comical to me.
And so here's an interesting one for you. What was the first thought that went through your head when you see the face of Commander Koloth? Hey, Trelane's fucking with him! Because yes, same actor.
That's the same actor?
Same actor.
Holy shit, I never recognized him.
Same actor as Trelane.
Oh.
I think you're right, yeah. Holy shit.
I looked it up to make sure. Which also ties into another thing. Recurring characters across actual series in Star Trek, played by the same actor, Koloth and Kor.
Koloth? I'm not sure that's correct.
Yeah. Again, looked it up.
Huh.
The actor who plays Koloth here is the same actor who played him in Blood Oath.
Holy shit, yes, you're right. God damn it.
Again, low budget.
Part of it is low budget, but what I'm more referencing is the fact that when DS9 called those characters back and brought them back in for Blood Oath, they specifically went to both of those actors to say, hey, we're bringing these characters back, obviously at late age. Would you be interested?
Well, and we'll get to this eventually, but one of the main characters from this episode plays himself again in the new one.
Yep.
So now we have our lovely meeting in Lurie's office, and we're season 3 right now, correct?
No, season 2.
2.
Mid-season 2.
So is this the second or third time that we've seen Klingons?
Because had the Organian incident back in season 1.
That was 125.
Yep.
126, 127, depending on how you count. If you count the pilot as an episode. Yeah, so this is the end of season 1 is when we see the Klingons. And so this is the second or third time we've seen the Klingons. And the reason that, the reason the Klingons look this way? They wanted them to look Asian.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like
in the original script, the guy that wrote Aaron of Mercy, the original episode with the Klingons from the Organian Peace Treaty episode, his only description of Klingons is Asian.
Which is why they kind of went with a Russian steppe, Mongol area type of aesthetic.
Yep. So we have our Asian spacefaring people. And they have they mention the Organian Peace Treaty. They talk about how they both have a claim on the planet, and there is no hostilities between their two governments, and they have shore leave rights to the station. So Kirk can do nothing to stop them.
Damn pesky peace treaties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the feel, Jared.
And I love this. So after they have their little bicker there, everybody's on shore leave except for Mr. Scott. And what is Mr. Scott doing, Jared?
Oh, reading a technical manual, of course.
Is he reading one or writing one?
It could be either at this point.
Yeah, so another technical journal, Scotty. Don't you ever relax? I am relaxing.
I mean, there's multiple references that he's doing this in his free time.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's one later in the episode
Yep.
where
Yeah, there
Kirk sentences him to actually stay in his quarters.
And he's
Thank you, sir.
thankful.
Yeah, thank you. That finally gives me the time to read up on my manuals. And there's at least one more I can recall in actually in the TNG episode where he appears, Relics. He's talking to Geordi about how he actually wrote the manual. Was it about shields? I think it was about shields.
Okay, so we made a comment earlier about the female uniforms. Do you notice anything? I did not intend to do this.
Cheerleader.
Do you notice anything odd about this one?
You mean all the way to the left of the screen?
Yeah, I can see some panties.
Cheerleader style undercovering.
What the hell?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Roddenberry was frisky, shall we say.
There were several of alien outfits that were held on by carpet tape because they couldn't stay on by their own form.
Oh, you mean like the female android?
Yes. So this is where we're first introduced to the fact that there are now more than one Tribble. And they have reproduced. Uhura came on board with one, and now we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Minimum 16, probably more. 17. Girl in blue's holding one.
Yeah, let's be honest. We all what happened there. Somebody took a bolt cutter to William Shatner's 2P crate.
I could just see them all scurrying away.
You know, they did have a line item in the budget for Shatner's toupees.
Yeah. So, the comedy of the show, the little bits. Spock talking about how there appears to be... Let me see, where's the line? We're in the rec room. Most curious creature, Captain. Its trilling seems to have a tranquilizing effect on the human nervous system. Fortunately, of course, I'm immune to its effect.
Or
As
is
starts
he?
to pet it.
Yeah, as he starts to pet it and kind of daydream like, oh shit. But at
Now, here comes... Go ahead.
Well, but at the same time, with that, you got to remember, Spock is not entirely Vulcan.
He's half human.
Now, had we met his mother at this point in the series? I think we have.
Yeah, I think we have
don't
too.
know.
Wasn't...
Because I think
No, that's not true. Journey to Babel was later, I think.
Okay.
Let me check. Yes, it was 2 episodes later.
See, I knew it was right around that time. Just couldn't... I'll admit it, couldn't remember the order. All right. And then we get to the hall.
After this, we get to the hallway, and there is a... Mr. Burris calls down. Yes, Mr. Burris, what can I do? Kirk, the station is swarming with Klingons.
Oh, funny. I didn't know
Kirk?
12 constituted a swarm of Klingons.
I love the snark because Kirk takes nothing about this man seriously. Captain Kirk, there are Klingon soldiers on this station. Now, I want you to keep that grain safe. Mr. Burris, I have guards around the grain. I have guards around the Klingons. The only reason those guards are there is because Starfleet wants them there. As for what you want...
I'll note it in my log.
Note it in my log. Kirk out. And then Kirk says he's going to sick bay because he has a headache. I do love how they consistently add the Enterprise into the background of these shots.
No, that's not the Enterprise. There's just 20 or 30 Constitution-class vessels roaming around there. So just by sheer luck, there's just always one in the frame.
So Kirk goes down to sick bay, where Bones, his one Tribble, has now turned into 10. And One thing that struck me as odd about this, Kirk walks in and asks for something for a headache, and Bones just reaches behind him and grabs a bottle.
Well, and not just that. I mean, as he's doing that, it's like, Barris? The Klingons?
Oh, yeah.
Both.
But he just so happens to have the headache medicine sitting behind him.
See, that's
or maybe he's just a good enough doctor that he was ready.
That's what I was going to say. Either he's really good at pushing the medication, Romulan ale, or he really is top notch in his field like that.
Well, or it's just the possibility that headache is just the most occurring form of illness that happens on the Enterprise.
But you'd
So he
still think
always
that
has
that
it
bottle
available.
of pills would be somewhere official rather than sitting on countertop.
Right behind
Maybe
his
he's
desk.
Maybe he's drug addicted. That would explain a lot.
That's McCoy's stash.
No. You're not going to get what everyone else gets. Here, have the good shit.
So Kirk asks him, has he figured out how they haven't quite figured it out yet. But I can tell you this much. Almost 50% of the creature's metabolism is geared for reproduction. Do you know what you get when you feed a Tribble too much?
More Tribbles.
No, Kirk's response, a fat Tribble? No, a bunch of hungry little Tribbles. Well, Bones, I suggest that you open up a maternity ward. Now everybody's going down to the station for shore leave. Giving everybody a warning, don't get into trouble, avoid the Klingons. Aren't you going, Mr. Scott? No, sir.
Yeah,
I want you to go on shore leave. Make sure that everybody stays out of trouble. But Captain,
I don't wanna. Too bad you're going.
Yeah, you're going. Because I know your engineers are going to be the ones that get into trouble.
Wait a second. Is it possible that Kirk did this on purpose?
Well,
Ooh.
there is that possibility, but at the same time, Kirk was practically pushing him onto the transporter pad to make him go. So
Yeah.
So was it Kirk wanting the fight to happen, or did Scotty recognize the situation and was like, hey, I can make this work for me?
No. I think it's Kirk that wanted it. He was like, yeah, there's a bunch of Klingons there. I don't like them. Let's just send the Scotsman.
Or both. Well, and not just the Scot and the Rusky.
Yeah, but Russians can't fight for shit. And I realized that I should be the person saying that.
Now we are introduced to the plot device of Tribbles not liking Klingons, which is a very handy plot device. Klingons get all pissy and say, get that thing away from me. But we don't get an explanation of why they hate them here. We do get that later on, though. I love this, where Jones is asking if he wants to buy some more Tribbles.
Well, I'll trade a Tribble for a drink, and he just starts pulling them out from behind the bar.
Now our gentlemen are getting some drinks, and they have one of the greatest conversations about alcohol. Scotch or vodka.
Vodka.
And our Scotsman about, what does he refer to it as?
You need to get off of that milk there, laddie, and get yourself a real drink.
Do you know what vodka actually means?
Distilled potato?
No, it means little water.
Fascinating.
And then once again, Chekhov, Scotch? Aye. It was invented by a little old lady in Leningrad. Another one of his Russian claims to fame. And at this point is when...
Well, and let's actually point this out to people. This is when they were still consuming actual alcohol, not synthahol.
Yeah. which will come into play here in a minute. So now Korax starts mouthing off about Kirk, and Mr. Scott does the proper thing. Sit down, laddie. We can take a couple of insults.
I'm not saying that the Enterprise should be hauling garbage. What I meant to say was that the Enterprise...
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Before we get to that, there's a little thing right here that Scott does.
Right here.
See, this is why I blame Scotty. He's like, oh, I see you finished your drink. Slide.
Yeah. Now drink your drink. Swaps his vodka for it says for Freeman's red wine. That's what it says on the script here, but he's yeah, is that wine or is that the scotch?
No, it looks like red wine, but
yeah, it does look very red indeed.
And
I'm talking about the wine, not Chekhov.
Is it supposed to be wine, or is it supposed to be something harder, like an alien type of brandy?
Yeah. And immediately Chekhov notices. And Mr. Scott kind of just gloats about the fact that he swapped the drinks. Mate, you think that Scotty just gave him a roofie?
No, I think Scotty's trying to get him liquored up because he knows how the young boy is going to react.
And then Korax makes the comment about Enterprise hauling garbage. And you're right. I should rephrase that. I don't mean the Enterprise should be hauling garbage. I meant to say it should be hauled away as garbage.
Yeah, and then
whack!
That's the second when he gets fisted by Scotty. Did I use
Phrasing.
that correctly?
That is...
Oh, okay.
Bar fight starts.
Which, and then... Yeah, you have the fighting, and this is where I noticed, so, Freeman, if you notice, go back one frame. So, see how high that shirt is riding up the back? Dry cleaning issues, man.
Yeah. Budgets are a bitch.
Hey, 1 minute debunk. As chief engineer, you do not insult the ship.
No, in general, you don't insult the ship. When talking to a sailor, that's the worst mistake you can make. The ship represents not only his workplace, but also basically his family and maybe even his home. So even if the ship you're talking about is a complete piece of rotten, old, rusty metal, don't do it.
Sorry.
Bad idea. Piece of junk. It's still beautiful. Just look at the Firefly. It's a piece of crap, but it was awesome.
That being said, Jared, the Kitty Hawk was a piece of shit, though.
I don't deny that. I lived there for a few years. And then, of course,
now we have Cyrano Jones
taking advantage of the situation like any good alcoholic would.
And he loses his last drink.
Or did he?
Other than the one that he had hiding in his pocket. You put an open glass container in your pocket.
And walked around like that, and there was still drink in it?
Yeah. That's a man that's prepared, right there. So everybody gets called back to the Enterprise. And Chekhov has a nice shiner. Once
Scotty
again,
did
great
too.
budget for makeup.
Did Scotty? I
Kirk
don't think Scotty did.
We'll see in a second. Kirk wants to know who threw the first punch. I don't know, sir.
I don't
Everybody confined to quarters?
Sir.
All right.
Does he?
Yep.
Let's see.
Yep.
Yeah, he does. Yep. And Scotty explains that they were insulting you, sir. And that's when you threw the first punch?
No,
no.
sir.
No. They'd insulted the Enterprise. That's when I fought them.
Just look at this picture. He's really proud of himself, isn't he?
Scotty's true loyalty revealed.
And then Scotty is confined to quarters. That'll give me a chance to catch up on my technical journals. Then we go back to the sick bay. Now, I love, you can't see it here, but these things don't have a head, a butt, a body, a legs, and anything.
But they're purring.
Capable of walking. They're purring, they're walking, they're crawling, and they're clinging to the side of walls.
They really are.
Maybe they're using their hair.
Ooh,
Like
the
a
Casimir effect, like some lizards use.
Spock says there seems to be something disquieting about these creatures. Don't tell me you've got a feeling. Don't be insulting, Doctor. They remind me of the lilies of the field. No, this doesn't sound familiar. They toil not, nor do they spin, but they seem to eat a great deal. I see no practical use in them. Does everything have to have a practical use for you? They're nice, they're soft, they're fluffy, and they make a pleasant sound.
Oh, I know the line coming up next. And
Yeah, so it's so would an ermine violin, but I see no advantage in having one. It's a human characteristic to love little animals, especially if they're attractive in some way. Doctor, I'm aware of your human characteristics. I'm frequently inundated by them, and I've trained myself to put up with practically anything. Spock, I don't know too much about these little tribbles yet, but there's one thing that I've discovered. What's that, Doctor? I like them better than you. And then, Doctor, yes, they do have one redeeming characteristic. What's that? They don't talk too much. If you'll excuse me. And then Spock leaves. And now Kirk comes back to the bridge, and you can see Tribbles everywhere. Squeak! As he sits down.
Hey, I wonder if anyone else ended up doing a similar sight gag.
I would like to know what practical jokes were actually played with the Tribbles.
Whoopee cushions.
Yeah. Because they had so many of them. They were everywhere. So the cast had to have done weird... Was there a Tribble fight at some point?
Oh, there had to have been. But here's a question for you. Would you rather randomly find a Tribble on your chair or a Chihuahua?
Ooh, good question.
Tribble. Definitely Tribble.
I wonder if anybody of the set workers ever fell asleep during break or something and then woke up with a Tribble glued to his groin.
Or woke up under a mound of them. So Kirk wanders around, randomly picking up random Tribbles. I want them off my bridge.
And here, there is actually a very good salient point that Kirk ends up making. It's directed at Uhura, but it's still something that some people need to remember and consider. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing.
Yeah. Get a maintenance crew to clean up the entire ship, and then contact Mr. Lurie and tell him I'm beaming down. And tell him to find Cyrano Jones and hold him.
Oh god, one of the lines coming up is gonna... Another...
In Lurie's office?
Yes. Yes, from Barris.
Let's see if I've got that one.
It's right at... So they end up questioning Cyrano Jones. Don't really have a reason to hold him yet. But they're already starting to suspect issues with the Tribbles. But then in this exchange between Barris and Kirk, what does Barris say specifically about Cyrano Jones?
That he's a Klingon agent.
How do you know that?
Oh, and then Spock, Kirk says, "I heard you," and Spock's response, he simply couldn't believe his ears. "What evidence do you have, Mr. Jones?" "My assistant here has been keeping an eye on Mr. Jones under close surveillance for quite some time, and his actions have been most suspicious. I believe he was involved in the altercation between your men and the men of..." Yes, go on. What else do you have? Kirk just cuts him off.
And
checked his ship logs 4 months ago. He was within the sphere of influence of Klingon territory. The man is an independent scout captain. It's quite possible he's a Klingon spy. Are you talking about Kirk's or Spock's comment or Kirk?
oh no, Barris talking about the grains.
Oh, yeah, but what about? But he's after my grain, and what proof do you have of that? You can't deny he's disturbing the station. And then Kirk, people have disturbed stations before without being Klingon agents. Sometimes all they need is a title, Mr. Burris.
but back to the whole, he's after my grains. Lucky Charms, anyone?
What?
It's an American
The
series.
children, they're after me Lucky Charms.
They're after me, Lucky Charms.
Oh, yeah. I think I got the parody of that in that one Rick and Morty episode.
Yeah, the interdimensional TV commercial.
Interdimensional Cable 1. Top Hat Jones?
Yep.
Oh, nobody eat me strawberry smiggles. Or something.
So
Okay,
they storm
I think
out,
I get it.
head back to the Enterprise, and once again, there are more Tribbles.
Oh, wait,
chicken
okay.
sandwich and coffee.
Damn it! I was gonna pose the trivia question to the audience of what Kirk ordered for lunch.
Sorry, yeah, my chicken sandwich and coffee. This is my chicken sandwich and my sandwich and coffee. Fascinating. I want these off my ship. I don't care if it takes every man we've got. I want them off my ship. They're in the machinery. Now, this has brought up a question. So they're in the food processors.
Yep.
At this time, are they replicators or are they processors?
Tomato, but at the same time, there have been...
Because if they're replicators, how would Tribbles appear in the bay where the food's presented?
I think it is more a processor, more being storage and transportation rather than actual prep. Because I don't think they actually got into the actual full-on replication. Depending on how much of continuity you put into Enterprise, the series,
I guess.
The series Enterprise, they were still doing predominantly cooking instead of the more advanced scientific processing. That wasn't even alluded.
Sequencer,
Yep.
I think.
Yep. Well, that was more the waste management and going into other items, not particularly for food. It wasn't until they hit that alien repair station where they actually saw what we, as the audience, understand as a food replication system.
Yeah, that episode was called Dead Stop for the people that are interested.
Yeah, Tao says no replicators back then.
Yeah.
Which would make sense then for this scene, because again, if it was replicators, I wouldn't see how they could get into the replication point. So this is where we come to realize that they got into that by through the ductwork or the air vents, and Spock says, "Captain, there are vents of that type on the space station." And they realize now that the grain is in danger. Dun, dun, dun.
And off we go.
And they hurry. Off we go to the transporter room. And again, how are these things sticking to the walls?
Again, they have to be some sort of furry version of urchin or like I mentioned before, certain lizards actually use the Casimir effect at their fingertips to actually adhere to surfaces.
Maybe they do it electrostatically. Maybe that's what the hair is for.
That too.
Yeah. So they beam over to the space station, and of course, Tribbles beam over with them. Hey, no red shirts died in this episode that we're aware of. And this is one of the most iconic scenes from the entirety of the series. That I would say if you ask anybody to describe one specific scene from the original series, this is it.
This is one of the top ones that people remember.
Can't open the bottom door, tries to open the top door,
and then they start falling out.
Would this be considered a tribalanche? Kind of like an avalanche?
Should smack you for that one. Oh, wait.
And
LRJ88 mentioned something. Only 17 red shirts were eaten off screen.
Yeah, it turns out that if you actually don't feed them grains, they turn carnivorous.
Well, that brings up a point, though, because this will come up here in a second, but if you stop feeding them, they don't reproduce. Where did all the food come from to create that many Tribbles? I think that he's correct, that 17 red shirts would have had to have died to make this many Tribbles.
Well, and keep in mind, it's not shown in this series, but it is presumed that is a grain storage vat that they were in. And with how little the first one ate before it came back to the ship, how much do they really need to eat before they reproduce?
Ugly German truth. I like how how a cow has several stomachs, a Tribble probably has several sets of genitals.
You know, Bones does kind of mention that.
Yeah, and then he brings up a point of, I think this is towards the comment of the most iconic scenes ever. Amok time of Spock going crazy in the hallway, yep. The Gorn, and then I like GT's comment here. This is Kirk's wig collection.
I actually know another scene. Remember in The Naked Time when Zulu was going bonkers with a sword?
Oh, yeah, when he brought out his rapier and was going through the passageways topless.
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't Klingons try to use Tribbles as a food source for Targs?
Now, Bo, don't jump ahead.
So this is where we come to. Let me turn on my camera. My background for today. I'm stuck in the Tribalanche. Because I'm sticking with that word, Jared. It's a Tribalanche.
I don't know. Gio, do you want to attack him this time?
Not that one. Not that one. Damn it. There we go.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Fino, in that episode, Kirk was rapey. Sulu was rapier.
Rapier.
Oh, that's punny.
Spock notices that the Tribble is dead.
Wait, no. First engorged.
Not yet. Nope. It's engorged. Then Mr. Darwin is pissed off, like he is through the entire episode. Kirk is snarky, like he is through the entire episode. And then McCoy comes in giddy. I figured it out. All we have to do is stop feeding them.
Yeah, duh. Who would have thought? Animal needs to eat.
While I'm sitting in a big giant bin of Tribbles. Just stop feeding them. And that is when they notice that the Tribbles are dead. Most of them are dead.
A good
what
portion
does he say,
of
like
them. Yeah.
Yeah, a good portion of them are dead, and the other ones are going to be dying soon. Oh, another one of the great lines. I want 2 things. First, find Cyrano Jones. And second,
Close that door.
close that door. Isn't it within reach of you, Kirk? Seriously, it's like 6 inches away from your index finger.
He is the rank of a captain, an 06. How many 06s do you know are capable of doing things like that on their own?
He goes on every away mission that no other 06 would ever do.
Well, keep in
Well,
mind,
apart
this
from maybe Picard.
Well, no, Picard didn't go on nearly as many away missions as Kirk did. And even then, think about it this way. In Star Trek 3, Ramirez makes mention to the regulations about away missions and everything. How many of those away missions do you think were a result because of Kirk?
All of them. This brings up another line. I didn't get a screen grab of it, though. Burris. I'm through, but I just wish there were more tears in this statement, because it kind of is that whiny kind of statement. I'm through being intimidated, Kirk. You've insulted me, and you've ignored me. You've walked all over me. You've abused your authority, and you've rejected my requests. And this is the result. I'm going to hold you responsible. I may have added a little personal commentary into that, but
well worth
words,
it.
just not the whininess.
Oh, well worth it. Oh, no, you could... he was trying to hide the whininess.
And then Kirk's response, Mr. Burris, I'll hold you in irons if you don't shut up. And then we end up back in in Lurie's office with Mr. Jones to talk about how dangerous the Tribbles are.
But they're harmless. They can't eat or hurt any... Wait a minute. What?
And then Koloth comes in all bitchy. I want an official apology to the Klingon High Command. I expect you to assume full responsibility for the persecution of the Klingon nationals in this quadrant. It's like, oh, that's kind of a steep demand. You've harassed my men. You've treated them like criminals. You've been most uncourteous, Captain Kirk. If you wish to avoid a diplomatic incident... It's like, at this point, Kirk is just being...
Kirk's
this would have been the end of the rope.
Well, Kirk's middle name is Diplomatic Incident.
I thought it's Tiberius.
What do you think Tiberius translates to?
Tiberius in Latin is diplomatic incident.
Actually, it means the person that comes from the river Tiber, but whatever. Close enough.
This is where everything just kind of keeps piling on to Kirk, which was kind of beautiful. Koloth says that as far as Sherman's planet is concerned, Captain Kirk has already given it to us.
And I swear the look on Kirk's face was more like, bitch, say what?
Bitch, please. And then, can you get rid of those things? The guards take Jones out, and as he's walking out, squeeze, squeeze!
As Darvin walks in.
I love every time that the Tribbles do that. It's while they're in someone's hand, and the rotation point of the reaction of the Tribble is that particular person's wrist.
Yeah.
What's their wrist?
That's an astonishing coincidence. I wonder why that happens.
Hold on a minute.
Low budget.
Yeah. Kirk wanders around. They don't like you. They like Vulcans.
Mm.
And then with
impeccable
with
taste.
his Spock. Yeah. I gotta find the line here. Damn it! Now I can't find it. But they do like Vulcans. I didn't know you had it in you.
Hang on. So from the chat from Fino, Ugly German Truce, Darwin Awards, 23rd Century Edition. No, this would be the Darwin Awards.
So Spock's response is obviously, Tribbles are very perceptive creatures, Captain. Obviously. Mr. Burris, they like you.
No,
well, there's no accounting for taste. Walks by Darwin. They don't like you. I wonder why. Bones. This man is a Klingon.
This man's a Klingon.
I wonder what Starfleet Command would say. But what about the grain? And this is where Bones says that the grain was poisoned. So this just turned into like a giant mystery that Kirk is solving with his extremely low-cut neck.
More like a Y neck. Why are you wearing that?
Yeah, I looked over at the screen and it just jumped out at me. Thank God he was not a hairy man on his chest, because that would have been like a tribble in his shirt. So Darwin is taken away. Kirk is now happy that everybody else that has pissed him off through the entire episode is now pissed off because he wins.
Oh, there's one left. There is one left. Oh.
Right there. Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I get to go to my ship now, right? Oh, not so fast.
Gotta clean up first.
And
the penalty for the penalty for transporting an animal proven to be harmful to human life is 20 years in a rehabilitation colony.
Prison.
I thought rehabilitation colony.
Prison.
Yeah, well, yeah. I thought that the Federation was a little more modern than that. Kirk, Captain Kirk, friend. Surely we can come sort of some understanding. After all, my Tribbles did put you onto the poisonous grain, and they did help you find the Klingon agent. You saved a lot of lives that way. There is one thing you can do. Yes? Pick up every Tribble on the station.
Which will take...
Well, that could take years. 17.9, in fact.
Not much of a reprieve.
Yeah. Consider it job security. And he starts putting them in his pockets.
Well, look at how many pockets he has on that thing.
He has back pockets.
He has back shoulder pockets.
I would like to know what he's going to do with said Tribbles.
If he's intelligent, he'll just beam them into space.
That's coming up later.
That's kind of inhumane, though.
On the other hand,
I think there's a far more effective means of getting rid of the Tribbles.
Do they have a garbage compactor on that station?
No, I think there's one even better.
What's that?
Oh yeah, we're getting to it.
So the Enterprise is leaving. Kirk walks back onto the bridge, and there are no Tribbles.
And Kirk is... and here's the thing. Go back one. As Kirk is sitting down, he stops midway to make sure he's not going to sit on one. Now, question, was that in the script? Or did he do that because of the pranking that was going on?
Yeah, good question.
No idea. Is there any notion to this on the script?
No.
So genuine reaction type of thing is possible. So gotta love that.
Yeah. So Kirk starts asking how they got rid of him.
Well, yeah. So Kirk asks Scotty. Scotty points to Spock.
Wait a second. Is Scotty's black eye gone? It looks like it's gone.
Yeah.
Medical
technology.
How much time has passed between the scene where we last saw him and now?
Several hours.
Yeah, at least several hours, if not close to a day-ish.
Yeah, still not enough to get rid of one. I think he has to thank Bones for this.
Yeah, not naturally, but through advanced medical technology, yes.
So they go back and forth.
Pointing the finger at each other. And
Yep.
Kirk's there is like, just frickin' tell me!
Mr. Scott, you didn't transport them into space, did you?
No, sir.
Sir, that would be inhumane. Where are they? I gave them a good home, sir.
Where are
Where? I gave them to the Klingons, sir. Before they went into warp, I transported the whole kit and caboodle into their engine room, where there'll be no Tribble at all.
Oh, and so we have a question from Ugly German Truths. I thought only Chekhov had a shiner.
No, yeah, Scotty had one.
But on the other side of the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why we didn't see it in the first scene.
Before we start on the next one, I'm gonna run for a bathroom break. I'll be back in a minute.
All right. But this one should follow fairly quickly.
Yeah, I have only about 42 or so minutes left because then I'm scheduled to appear on the Shields.
Yep. Kind of figured. Any particular topic or random stupidity?
Probably random shit.
Shocking.
I mean, we've got Steve on, so that's something.
Steve McRae?
McRae.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
Well, hopefully a lot of the drama monkeys don't show up. We can hope.
I don't know. We will see. You saw that too?
Yeah, I'm not answering that one. But, so, going through, yeah, so we'll see how many screenshots of this one we actually end up needing. But I have to say, I'd always remembered this episode of DS9 coming up as fitting in very well with how the original series episode went along. It wasn't until watching it to actually do the notes that I realized just how well it did, except for a couple changes which do kind of help with the storytelling in one aspect, and in the other is kind of like, did you really have to do it that way?
Yeah, but there's some fuckery obviously going on with the timing of the bar fight. Not that like anything is reversed in order or anything, but there's seconds missing. Just scenes that weren't shown in in Deep Space Nine that were shown in TOS and the other way around. So I think it could have been done better. But
I think it was. We'll talk about it when we get there, but I think it was smooth enough that you wouldn't notice unless you were seriously nitpicking. Nothing was drastic.
So S2000 GTS, do Federation ships have plumbing, or is the waste just beamed into space? Oh no, they have actual waste reclamation systems. Which just makes you wonder, how do the 3 shells work?
I actually have 3 shells in my bathroom. That's not a lie. That's what I'm doing to confuse my guests.
Nice. So I have to say, interesting choice on the long-term shuttle that the Temporal Investigations Unit decides to use here is still
go ahead.
Still using the refit era nacelles on it, so it's kind of a throwback.
Yeah.
So did you ever notice something about the temporal agents? Their names?
Dulmer and Luxley.
Yeah, Dalmor and Luxley.
Mulder and Scully, anyone?
Yep.
And so this, of course, is right when they arrive, and there is a particular quip that Jadzia makes.
see. We're expecting you. I guess you boys from Temporal Investigations are always on time.
No, Jadzia, the temporal investigation agents are not wizards.
So we go to Captain Sisko's office because he has some splaining to do. And more time jokes. Or lack of time joke.
Yeah. And also, please tell me you don't think it's a predestination paradox. Oh no, we just ran into an asshole. That's essentially what he says.
So what happened? This may take some time. Is that a joke? No. Good. We hate those two. All right, Captain. Whenever you're ready. So 2 weeks ago, they were called out by the Cardassian government because they had found an orb that belonged to the Bajorans. Explains that there are 12... Is it 12? Orbs?
That they're aware of, and numerous fakes. We happen to be given the Orb of Time, though we didn't know it when we got it.
Yep. And there's the orb. And they also took on a passenger that may look familiar.
That face looks oddly familiar. Oh, wait. It's the same actor.
Yay! And we see a forehead in the background that we didn't see in the last episode.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
It's private.
We'll talk about when they don't talk about that. He is extremely excited to see humans. And then O'Brien and Bashir.
and comments about the smell.
Yeah. I wouldn't take it... don't take it personally, Worf. I'd rather... I like the way you smell. Yeah, sort of earthy. A peaty aroma.
Almost like lilacs.
And then what does old boy order from the replicator?
Ractigino.
Klingon coffee. So as they are traveling back, and then I love this, that they are trying to get everybody else in on the practical joke, and O'Brien says, trust me, the next time you see him, just sniff the air and go, is that lilac?
And Jadzia is like, oh no, I'm not getting in on it. I have other ways.
Find someone else. I have my own ways of torturing Worf. And at that point, I was thinking, are they dating? And do those ways of torture include like blindfolds and whips?
At this point, I don't think so. But I think it's shortly after this that the relationship actually becomes official.
Yeah, that started in looking for Parmach in all the wrong places, I think.
Yeah, because as Quark and Grilka are getting it on, Jadzia and Worf are in the next holosuite over.
Okay, those are two pictures I definitely do not need in my mind.
Stephen Huxtable, do we get sexy Kira in this? Unfortunately, no, there was not much showing of Kira in this episode, and she was pregnant with the O'Brien's child at the time.
Very pregnant.
I think that was Bashir's fault.
Yeah, he's easy enough to blame. But at the same time, Kira was the only other one with the anatomy that could take a child.
You do get the inside joke, don't you? Because I'm not sure.
Well, I remember in that.
Well, I mean, it is...
The actor
it is
who plays Julian Bashir actually is the father of Nana Visitor's kid.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, that's why they included that inside joke where Kira says, I think this is your fault. Seriously, look it up.
Wow. Gotta love this series sometimes.
Back to the station, as they're traveling back to the station, something happens. They drop out of warp. Lights and everything flicker.
Ooh.
And then Dax... What's up?
Oh no, we had already mentioned that point about the. Oh no, it's coming up right here. Yeah, sorry.
So Dax says something is wrong. We are 200 light years from our last position, and we're decloaked. Someone's activated the transport. Deactivate and recloak. And there's another ship ahead. What is it?
Dun, dun, dun.
The Enterprise. So this is where that joke comes up of which one?
Yeah.
There have been 5. 6?
No, 6.
6.
And for those who are unaware, this aired November 96. What movie was released later that month? Oh, yeah.
First Contact.
First Contact in the full expose and launching of the Enterprise E. Notice, no reference to the NX class.
So then they talk about.
But I think they specifically they specifically mentioned Federation starships, which the NX would not fall under.
Gray area.
Yeah, I mean, it was not a Federation starship.
Not at launch, no. And
no, not in general. It was taken out of service in 2161, which was before. Actually, I think on the same day as the foundation of the Federation.
Yeah, that's the wonderful retcon to it, where it's like, yeah, we're going to do this series, and here's how we're going to shoehorn it in. Still better than Discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that bar is very low. Yeah,
So,
the D so far is the largest one.
They ask what the star date is, and it was 4523.7. And then they have the game of knowing immediately 105 years, 1 month, and 12 days ago.
A Friday.
What was the Enterprise doing? So they were orbiting K7, talks about how that's when they realized that the time orb had been activated, and Mr. Darwin, now they know who he was, had been the one that had left the ship. And they briefly retell the story of him being caught by Kirk and poisoning of the grain. So now they have to go play Time Cops and get ready to live 105 years ago.
Which, of course, Jadzia had to cover the spots because the Trill don't look like that, and they don't even know about the Trill.
But Jadzia lived back then. Jadzia interacted with some of these people.
No, not
Did
just
she cover up the spots then?
Dax.
Well, Dax
did. Dax did. But remember, prior to Dax on DS9, it's a mess up of continuity between TNG and DS9.
No, it's not a mess up. They actually knew this, and they actually had Terry Farrell in the original Trill costume, but they decided not to go with that one because they didn't want her face covered, so they went with the spots instead.
And this is when they point out when Bashir asks if they're in the wrong colors.
Which, technically, Cisco is, because it's not supposed to be gold, even though that's how it ended up looking.
Now that I know this, I want to see if they color corrected Kirk to make it yellow.
So, no,
to fit
that tunic was green. It showed up as green, it stayed as green. The ones you need to look at is, did they color correct Chekhov?
Okay. I didn't even pay attention to Chekhov in the original series one. Was he green or was he gold?
He was
was yellow gold, much more than Kirk.
Yeah, it looked more mustard. And that's the thing. Okay. That uniform is what caused that whole color question. Because when you look through TOS, when you look at the uniform tops that Kirk wears, that one looks gold. But then you have the one he's wearing in this episode, which he does wear a few other times, where it's the wraparound tunic with the delta down by the waist. That is clearly green. Also, what color is the dress uniform, which is a more satin finish? That's also a green hue.
Yeah. So after Bashir points that out, O'Brien says, "Don't you know anything about this time period? I'm a doctor, not a historian," which is an awesome callback to McCoy.
Yep.
Well, that's
In
an
the
awesome
old-
callback to pretty much every Doctor in Star Trek, because there have been comments made about this all over the place.
In the olden days, operations wore red, command officers wore gold, and then what's the next line?
Women wore less. Great reveal.
Should I just leave it on this and we finish the conversation? Leave it here?
Well, hang on. Leave that up on screen for a moment. Ugly German Truths, not Jadzia, Curzon, presumably. No, Dax at that time, it was right before Curzon, but there is reference to the prior host later in the episode. Emily. Yep, the gymnast.
Yep.
The one that was played by Chase Masterson, I think, that one weird DS9 episode. Where Jadzia meets all her former hosts.
Yep.
So at this point, the crew has to split up. Some go on to the Enterprise. Some go to Deep Space Nine to try and find
K7.
Sorry. To try and find what's his nuts to stop whatever plan he has.
Yep, and we get an explanation of the cyclical nature of the Enterprise's sensor suite at the time due to the what? Oh yeah, the duotronic system.
Used a duotronic sensor array. If we wait just for the right period in the scan cycle, we can decloak the Defiant for almost 3 seconds without being detected. That's kind of shitty for being in the 23rd century.
Yeah. But they made it work somehow. They survived, luckily. But that's also part of why the Delta from the Enterprise got adopted as Starfleet's insignia, because it was the first, if not only, ship to survive successive 5-year missions.
So Cisco and Dax go on to the Enterprise, and I love the recreation of the Enterprise. I would love to. There's a museum in New York that has the bridge and half the ship recreated, and I would just love to go and play there for a day.
Oh, and in my notes I have arriving on to NCC 1701, and just simply in all capital letters, the look!
Oh, it's so 70s. And I love the hard corners.
60s.
The hard corners on everything. And, doors.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Deep Space Nine was a little bit weird in that regard, because the station was based on Cardassian technology.
I'm just talking about every other starship after this, with the curved nature of everything.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, instead of
but DS9 is especially bad in that regard.
Yeah.
For plot reasons.
All right. So you're going through now this point here. I just wonder. They are having such a hard time with using the turbo lift. Shouldn't that have been included in the briefing?
Yeah, let's talk about old technology you're going to have to get used to working. Computer.
Hello, computer.
Yeah. And then the doctor's grandma comes on. We'll talk about that later.
Great grandma.
Great grandma. I won't tell anyone if you won't. Yeah. Which we discussed this a couple of shows ago about the nature of the voice-activated communication system. This makes sense. It's just creepy with the modern version that the computer is constantly listening to you and able to actually interpret what you're saying.
Intent.
Yeah. In real time, actually almost predictive.
Oh.
Dora's asking about making the video
Remaking that adventure video.
I don't know if I could repost it or I could just put it back. I mean, it's still up on my channel. We may have to do that as like an opener for one of these sometime.
All right, so back to the show. Going through.
Dax is just a Twitter about all of the old tech. Because
Black
she
satin
lived
finish, silver highlights.
And you notice that her V-neck, she doesn't even have a V-neck. I mean, Kirk had more cleavage shown than she is right now.
Yeah, that is kind of disappointing. But then again, different times in the Twitterverse.
Oh no, there's more cleavage coming up.
Oh, I know. Just
so, Odo and Worf go to the bar, which would have been the best assignment, and this is where the stitching in together starts
to
and
happen.
Oh, it is so satisfying.
Well, but here is one thing with this one. It is the first overlay of the old and new footage, but notice how when it goes to this, it's just Chekhov and Uhura walking up to the bar. Was there enough time shown between Odo walking in and that taking place for the original conversation to have taken place with Spock and Kirk and those two? Kind of pushing it, because keep in mind they had that conversation right there at the doorway.
Yeah. I just noticed old girl has butterfly wings on her dress.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the cleavage. There's your classic Star Trek. And Odo orders a Ractigino. And there you can see the butterfly wings. Realizes he's the second person to order it that day. Dun, dun, dun.
Wait, who else ordered it? Some old guy.
Yeah. And here's some more stitching. Some of this stitching is a little awkward, but still done fairly well. Just Odo creeping in the background.
That one is actually done perfectly, in my opinion.
Yes. This is the stitching done right. Because they're taking a segment of the original series episode that when you go back and look, there is no one there behind them. So they're not covering anyone. It really is just that insert of Odo kind of listening in. And please tell me you got a shot of his face.
Which part?
When the Tribble is shown.
Here or?
Yeah, in this.
No, I didn't.
Oh. Odo ends up so enamored with the Tribble.
Yeah, that is coming up. So we've got O'Brien and the Doctor over on the Enterprise as they're trying to figure things out.
What the hell is the guy in the background carrying?
A diagnostic and repair tool, which was actually a proper representation of something that was used in TOS.
Yeah.
I can't remember that one at all. That looks so fucking weird.
Yeah, it's huge.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah. But I do love this. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab this and... put
that right back.
Now, Worf comes into the bar. And this is where he is introduced to the Tribble. And Odo, like you said, he's just absolutely enamored with the Tribble. And Worf is not happy.
Oh no, Worf does not like the Tribbles at all. And, Odo asked a great question, and I am curious. Are there any songs about the Great Tribble Hunts that are still sung?
Yeah, so hundreds of warriors were sent. So let me read through this. They do nothing. They consume food. If you feed that thing more than the smallest morsel, a few hours later, you'll have 10 tribbles, then hundreds, then thousands. Calm down. They were once considered mortal enemies of the Klingon Empire. This, a mortal enemy of the Klingon Empire? They were an ecological menace, a plague to be wiped out.
Can you just imagine? Can you imagine a bunch of Klingons settling or going to their homeworld and just slaying them with their bat'leths?
Apparently, it was an orbital bombardment. They didn't even want to go to the ground.
Yeah,
for the glory of the Empire.
Yeah. Hundreds of warriors were sent to track them down throughout the galaxy. An armada obliterated the Tribbles' homeworld.
Fortunately, the Tribble artillery was rare and not very precise.
By the end of the 23rd century, they had been eradicated. Another glorious chapter for the Klingon history. Tell me, do they still sing songs of the Great Tribble Hunt?
I hope you got that one. Starship Troopers.
Yep. Battle station. Red alert. What should we do? Go to battle stations.
Oh, okay.
And there's pregnant Kira.
We're still seeing Worf and Odo.
Oh, crap.
Oh. Now it just updated to them in the turbo lift.
Yep.
And again, I have to say, what restraint from Sisko, because Jadzia is trying so hard to get over to K7.
I've got more of that.
Now, why is it that Jadzia... Yep.
That's not this scene quite yet. So she explains that the Klingons are coming about, and here it is. This is when she realizes that the commander of the Klingon ship is
Koloth.
Koloth. And she knew Koloth as Curzon and wanted to go see him so badly.
Oh, he wouldn't even recognize me.
Please, he wouldn't recognize me. No. But, please. Fine.
No.
It would have been fun. Too much fun. Just 1 second. Scroll up over. And we're back outside. We see both ships. And I had to take a screenshot of this because I love the Turbolift 7 sign. It's a modern-day bathroom sign. Like, that's very high-tech for a starship, right there.
Period specific, though. If you go back to TOS, that is a lot of the signage that they had on the rooms.
Yeah.
What do you mean by modern for a starship? What would be the alternative? Just to take a Sharpie to it?
An LED. Some sort of built-in sign. Like that.
Or even just stenciling on the door itself.
Oh, like in TNG?
Yeah. So they get it. The Doctor and O'Brien get into the turbo lift because they are ordered to go over the ship. And this is where we run into the Doctor's great-grandma.
Again. And it's like, oh, hey, fancy seeing you here.
I am new on board. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Let me see if I can find her. I just transferred here from the Lexington. Welcome aboard. I'm coming to sickbay tomorrow for my physical. 1500. Lieutenant Watley. And then she leaves. It's like, she's laying it on pretty thick there, but yeah, if I was the Doctor, I'd stay.
Kind of makes you wonder.
And then I love O'Brien's response. You know, she was just using you to get to me. Watley, that was my great-grandmother's name. Nobody knew who my great-grandfather was. This could be a predestined paradox. Come on, Chief. Surely you took elemental temporal mechanics at the academy. I could be destined to fall in love with that woman and to become my own grandfather.
There was an episode in Futurama a few years later where it actually turned out that Fry was his own grandfather.
And as soon as he slept with her, she started knitting him a blanket.
Something like
She
that.
turned
I
into
don't
an
know.
actual grandmother.
Yeah. Then we get to, I think the hall scene is next. Yep.
Here's another stitching. And Kirk is green. They didn't color correct him.
Well, no, that one wouldn't have been. Again, it's Chekhov.
Well, I'm just wondering, since that was supposed to, they'd already mentioned that Command was gold.
Yep.
I was wondering if they were going to color correct Kirk to make him gold.
No, not in that shirt, because that one actually showed as green initially. So it would be the standard top, which the style Spock is wearing, but in Command, that would be color corrected.
Now we've got another one of those snarky scenes with Darwin.
And look who's in the background. Again, beautifully placed, because again, in the original, no one was there to begin with.
Yeah, I love the stitching on this.
Yeah. Well, at this point, right here is entirely new footage. But when you go back to where they're standing at that wall panel, and Kirk walks up to the comm unit, that is stitched. And again, it's very well done.
Yeah. And again, Dax gets really excited. Don't you want to meet Kirk? And Sisko does so well at this point, resisting the temptation.
Oh, of course I do. I'd ask him about fighting the Gorn on Cestus 3. But that's not why we're here.
Old man. I love how they throw that in consistently throughout the series. Referring to Dax as old man.
Yeah.
Which brings up a question. Being that Sisko knew Dax as an old man, do you think he could ever get past that in Banger?
No.
It seems like it at times, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah. Now we are back at the bar. Bashir and O'Brien have joined the crew. And I love the introductions as they come in. It's like, oh, we've been doing this all wrong. We've been searching for the past 6 hours. Well, we could have just been sitting at the bar.
Ah, yes, the great Ractigino clue that no one else would have caught.
And more stitching starts to come into play here. I think that's Scotty in the background, I believe.
I can't quite tell yet.
Yeah. And this is where we bring up the Klingons. Those are Klingons.
Sean Hofford in the side chat just said, that is why he kept referring to her as old man. It was his boner killer. So he did that on purpose. Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah, maybe.
That is good headcanon. I will accept that one.
On the other hand, didn't he also refer to Ezri Dex as old man?
Yes. And Ezri ended up with who?
Fuck. Yeah.
Bashir.
Yeah. I know.
But then again, Sisko had this whole thing about leaving the corporeal realm to live with the prophets that kind of killed any potential chance of playing and flirting with that line with Ezri.
Yeah, but he didn't know that at this point, did he?
No, at this point, no. Rodent no last name. It depends on how old of a computer and how old of... Alright, so, yay, now we can see the bar.
Oh, did it just jump over for you guys?
Finally.
Dang it. Well, it's when I click off screen, and I don't remember what I clicked last. Alright, so we're at the bar, and they talk about those... Identify that somebody else ordered Ractigino, and that would be the Klingons. And these guys ask, what Klingons?
Yeah, they're flabbergasted. And those Klingons.
And now we look at our Klingon. And that's where Worf says...
It's a private matter. We don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Bashir suggests that it's either a virus or genetic engineering. And then it turned out that it's both.
They are Klingons, and it's a long story. What happened? Some kind of genetic engineering? A mutation? We don't discuss it with outsiders. And at that point, we hear Korax in the background doing his shtick to try and rile up Scotty.
Well, and keep in mind, just before this, O'Brien misidentified someone as Kirk.
Yeah, identifies the guy on the right as Kirk. And just enthralled with him. Look at him. He's just sitting there, taking all those insults from the Klingons.
Are you sure
why is
then
he
he
wearing-
didn't misidentify him with Chekhov?
No, it is the... He kept referring to him, and it was Lieutenant Freeman that he kept pointing to as Kirk. Yeah, I'm sure of it. But why is he wearing lieutenant stripes?
I think we've got bigger problems than a case of mistaken identity. And the bar fight ensues, and more stitching. Recreations and stitchings.
Yeah, mix of both. Like the...
For me, it's still showing the picture where they're all sitting around the table. Did it update for you guys?
All right. How about there?
PC Master Race for the win.
No.
Oh, shut up.
No, I'm
How about
making fun. Nope, still the same one.
What the hell?
No, the video's not frozen. There we go. Now it moved around.
Yeah, but
and
it went back to the old one.
We had the fight scene now.
No, we're still
No.
back. We're back at the table again.
Table, everybody's staring at Worf.
Let me stop presenting and start again.
The
I'm
Warriors.
gonna do an entire.
You're gonna do an entire what?
I was gonna do the window, but this will be fine. There we go.
Hey!
Yay! Shut up, Sean. I'm just waiting.
Wow.
So we have.
Yeah, here you have a nice overlay of old in the background, new in the foreground, and then a chair flies across.
Was it one of? Yeah, that's not a modern person going over the table, is it?
No, that was in the original, and actually, gotta love the acting at the time. If you watch the original, when that part comes up, he hits the edge, and if he was thrown, he would have fell back towards the floor in front, but instead he rolled himself over the top to go over to the back side of the bar.
Gotta love a good pratfall.
Yep.
And now here's some overlay or some stitching, where we see Darvin, the current Darvin, in the hallway.
Yep. To which Worf and Odo run after him, and
O'Brien gets snatched.
Ready to come with me, Cupcake?
Dun, dun, dun. So your men were arrested.
Well, yeah.
All right, did it go to Cisco now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but instead of being put in the brig, they were taken in for questioning with everyone else.
Okay, guys, we gotta hurry up.
Yep.
I'll need to go in a few minutes.
Yeah, we're almost done. Or if you got to take off.
Yeah, go.
So,
No, not yet, like 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
Just saying we need to have it finished by then.
So here, here we have the
great
insertion. Yeah, well, very well done. Where you have O'Brien over top where Freeman was, and what I noticed is they cut out the initial bit of the question to where Kirk actually only asks, was it you? Or who did it?
He wanders up and down a little bit.
Yeah.
That was not included in the remake.
Notice something about Kirk's shirt?
It's green and bulgy.
That one is super green.
Yeah. Yeah, again, that was the green, and it looks like they did color correct the rest of it and actually made it more vibrant. So the original design with that checkoff right there is wearing does give that goldish mustard yellow look.
So then he releases everybody, and they leave. And then another one of the great lines, you just lied to Captain Kirk.
Wait, I did.
I wish Keiko could have been here to see that. Oh, and then Bashir steps on a Tribble.
Again, hot shots.
And Tribbles everywhere. Is it moving for you?
Yep.
Yep.
So far, yes.
We now have Darwin that has been captured and gloating about whatever he has done and talking about his statue.
Yeah, thinking that, ha 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 ha, I've already won. Almost like that whole submarine tactic where you may have killed me, but my torpedoes are still heading towards the target.
Yeah. Har, har, har.
Good movie.
So now they're talking about that he has confessed. He's a terrible Klingon if he confessed to exactly what his plot is.
Not necessarily, because Klingons are the most boastful motherfuckers in that universe when it comes to something that they think will give them glory. Because what's the point of doing it then if you don't let people know?
True. So they talk about there is a bomb in a Tribble, but they don't know where. So this group is going to go back to the station to scan Tribble by Tribble. And Dax and Cisco are going to go to the bridge, as you can see here, and scan the entire Enterprise. And this is the squeak scene from the crossover.
Yep.
Squeak!
Now,
and again, Dax stitched perfectly into the background.
Yes. Although, here's a question. What workstation is Cisco actually sitting at? Because if you notice, in the original, there's a crewman right there next to Dax at that station. Behind Kirk on the other side of the turbo lift is Uhura and then Spock. So where did Cisco sit down? Probably one of the ones right up next towards the viewing screen.
Yeah.
And this was one of those where it's like kind of, they wedged it in. It kind of works, but And they're still giving enough of the interplay from the original series to keep the major points of that storyline understood to have that overlap. So they end up finishing their scans and realize, hey, the bomb's not on the Enterprise. Although, this story right here, oh, Bones, you frisky little scant.
Yeah. She recognizes McCoy, realizes that she knew him when she was, what was her name?
Emily,
judging a gymnastics tournament on Earth. I always knew he'd be a doctor. He had the hands of a surgeon. There's the look. Not here. It must be over on K6 or K7. What's the
K7?
And not K9.
So they end up doing the foreshadowing pan through to the actual Tribble in the grain shed, in the storage vault.
Yep.
They're looking around. They can't find it, but they know it's there. They know
One by one.
Yep.
Yeah, I like.
Tedious.
You recognize what scene this one is?
Well, yeah, it's taken from towards the end of the episode, where if you look, boom, there's the barkeep surrounded by Tribbles, not able to do a thing.
Yeah, I love that they reuse this for a different scene.
Yeah, there's another reuse that comes up later.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to that, they realize, okay, well, Kirk is the target. Kirk's on the ship. We'll just get near and stay near Kirk and pretty much follow him where he goes. And this is where we get to the mess hall scene again, where what did he order for lunch?
Wasn't it chicken sandwich?
Chicken sandwich and coffee.
And coffee.
Now
these scenes are out of order.
No, they're not. But right here, what happens is, in the original series, there is a couple that are sitting there at that table that they have put Cisco and Dax at. And the annoying part to me for nitpicky bullshit is when you hear the soft audio in back of Kirk and Spock talking and then realizing, hey, the air shafts are the same, we got to get over to the station and check the grain vaults. It shows Cisco and Dax getting up from that table, but in the original series, there was a couple that were sitting there that Kirk literally handed his tray to before walking off.
Oh, yeah, he interacted with them, didn't he?
Yep.
Ah. So they realize it's the grain vaults that they've got to get to, and there's one of the giant grain vaults in space.
For whatever reason.
Now it's a Tribble vault. And this would have... If there is ever a Star Trek amusement park, this has got to be in there. It's like a ball pit. It's a Tribble pit.
That's going to be full of urine within 20 minutes.
Well, you got to make it for adults, then.
Adults, yeah. This isn't a kid thing. This is adults only.
Well, then it'd be full of something else.
Oh, no. Why?
Because I can't. And same footage from the original where he opens the door and everything falls out. And what's nice is when they cut back to inside, boom, doors open and Tribbles are falling out. Now, the funny part is, throughout the original series bit, when Kirk is out there talking to everyone, there's random Tribbles still dropping out. And what are they doing as they're searching?
They're throwing.
Yeah, I tried to get
the Tribbles around. They fall out the ledge, basically.
Yeah, it actually lines up that way.
Yeah, every one of them that hit Kirk in the head, somebody in here threw out.
So they find the Tribble, set it up on the tricorder, beam it out into space. And
Toupee in space. Would nobody have picked that up on their sensors?
If they were paying attention. But that really makes you wonder, why weren't they paying attention? And why didn't that set shit off?
Yeah, there should have been bright red lights shortly after this. So we cut back to the same scene and we relive one of the great scenes. Someone close that door. Orange jumpsuit, I don't remember that. So which part would the crew have that been? Bo asks. Is that which orange jumpsuit? For a second.
Oh, no, that was the station administrator.
Yeah.
That's the guy in charge of the K7 station itself. But
Yeah, I don't have any other image. Yeah, that's the guy in charge.
so
They explain the plot that was used, or that originally happened, where they identified Darwin. Kirk exposed him,
still followed on.
and
Yep.
Kira was able to figure out how to use the orb to get them back to current. And then what's their next question?
So that was it?
That's when you came back.
Not
No.
exactly.
There's something that I needed to do.
Something I had been wanting to do ever since we got there. So I have one criticism of this.
Why?
He's got a goatee.
Yep.
There's a lieutenant talking to the captain with a goatee, and the captain doesn't say a word about it.
Maybe this was just after the Mirror Universe episode. Because keep in mind, so this segment, this interaction with Kirk, did not come from the Trouble with Tribbles episode.
Yeah, I don't know which episode this one came from.
I have a different hypothesis. Maybe Kirk is just used to time travelers admiring him. And he's like, that's the second one this week. Just play along.
Maybe.
So he gets to go on there just to meet him, tells him that he's only temporarily on board, and it's been an honor working with him. And you've got a super chat.
Hey, I didn't hear it. There it goes. Now it went off. Super chat. Cisco be like, Tribble better have my money. Thank you, Chris.
Bo asked, wouldn't it be engineering, a.k.a. the same as Scotty? And I think that Ugly German Truth says this. That's a civilian uniform. The guy that's in that orange jumpsuit isn't a member of Starfleet. This is a civilian outpost.
Yep.
So the guy's in a regular work uniform for whatever his mission is. And I would say just based on the fact that he's wearing an orange jumpsuit shows the level of station that this particular outpost is.
Yeah,
it's not a high-level, well-traveled people coming to visit all the time. It is a working station.
Yeah, it's not a diplomatic outpost. It is very much storage and repair.
Yep. So after Cisco tells the story of getting to meet Captain Kirk, he goes back and says that if you'd like to put a formal letter in my file,
so
go
be
for it.
To which they alluded, maybe not. We'll see.
I probably would have done the same thing.
Actually, one of them admitted, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
To which his partner was like, really?
Escorts them off the ship, or off the station, or to the turbo lift. How did it go? Did you tell them?
Of course not.
What are we going to do with them all?
Well, and then this is where they get called down to the prom. It said Odo wants to see us on the promenade. It goes down there, and we get to see Quark. The only shot of Quark in the entirety of this episode. I can see that you have it. Still can't see it.
We could build another station. Oh, did it switch?
Nope.
You got it?
Nope.
No.
God damn you.
That's what you get for using a Mac.
That's the only thing I've got. Still no?
Still no. It's still just the three of them.
All right, just a second. I don't know why that even stopped. Window.
We're overtaxing the system.
There we go. Should be coming up now.
There we go. Now we'll be... Maybe.
Then I clicked off it. There we go.
There we go. Now we can see Quark. Yeah, start to see Tribbles everywhere. Then it pans out.
And then Dax.
Well, could always
Dax's
build another
solution.
station. To which my only response to this is, what the fuck, Odo? Because you know that's who it was. You know that's who brought a Tribble back.
Yeah. Well, it could have been the Doctor, because remember, the Doctor picked one up in the hallway.
No, it was definitely Odo for two reasons. First of all, he seemed to like the Tribbles. And second of all, let's be honest, he wants to fuck with Quark. Metaphorically speaking. Not literally. That would be weird.
Yeah, exactly. And keep in mind, around this time, Odo was trying to fit in more. If you notice, his demeanor and everything was definitely softer and more malleable from an emotional standpoint. He wasn't the rigid constable that he was at the beginning of the series. So for him to find a creature like this that is just so cute and unassuming, but oh my god,
it's so adorable.
What the hell, Odo? Really, what the frickin' hell?
This was a fun one. These are two of my favorite episodes.
And overall, I have to say, the way they interlaced them in the DS9 episode, best I've seen it done where it actually maintains the continuity.
Agreed. Okay, guys, I need to go.
All right, later, Gil.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I don't know. This was just fun. These two episodes were fun. And the trouble with Tribbles, the writer of that was the first episode that he had presented, that was his for the original series. And in the DS9 episode, he was actually one of the security guards. I don't know which one, but he was one of the security guards. They brought him back for it.
Yeah, gotta love those nameless security guard 1.
Yeah.
kind of titles in the credits. And that's the thing. Later Trek definitely did its due diligence to maintain those ties and honor the original series while still doing their own thing and adding to the greater universe that has been developed by all the franchises. And actually, they
showed reverence.
Yes. And actually, so interestingly enough, it was only a couple episodes later that you even get the uniform swap in DS9 from the black with the colored shoulders to the gray and black with the colored turtleneck. That was introduced in First Contact.
S200 GT has a really good question. Would the Borg assimilate the Tribbles?
Maybe.
I want to see a Borg Tribble.
Maybe that's what they'll do in Discovery.
Somebody needs to design a Borg Tribble. The next time I go to a Comic-Con or something like that, I'm going dressed up Star Trek, and I'm going to have a Tribble that I have Borgized.
Well, so the issue there is getting rid of all the hair. So you'll actually end up seeing just what actual size is the Tribble itself.
Is it 80% hair?
That's one way to find out.
Well, Jared, it's been good.
This was an interesting one, and actually using the tie-in between the two to do a double feature. And note to self, let's speed up the episode one next time, because in 2 weeks we have another double feature. And again, it is a relevant bit, but this time we are not crossing between series franchises. We are doing Space Seed and The Wrath of Khan. So we're going to see where Kirk done fucked up, and then he has to pay for it.
There are Tribble of Borg. It's Dora just posted it in the Discord.
Hang on.
Not much in it. It's from Gamepedia.com. Tribble Borg is a Tribble. Let's see. Oh, from a game.
Well, yeah, from Star Trek Online. STO would be where it is.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna... Such a small image, can't tell, but you know what? We will look into that later. Until then,
definitely.
We have been going on long enough. This has definitely been another good look at some of the episodes in the Star Trek franchise. Like I said, in 2 weeks, we'll be back and we'll be talking about arguably the most recognizable foe from the original series crew era.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, I just hope his marksmanship skills remain the same, because I kind of like to keep going on. So until then, we will see you all later.